Hi guys, welcome back to ToK today. Please hit like and please subscribe. Today we're looking at how do I use ChatGPT or other AI to write my ToK essay. And underneath this there are two other questions, which is, am I allowed to use ChatGPT or other AI? And should I use it? Does it make sense? Let's take it in this order. Am I allowed to use it? How do I use it? And should I use it? Timestamps are in the description, and the full script for this video and all the resources are available for free from toktoday.com. Let's get into it. So first of all, am I allowed to use ChatGPT or other AI in my ToK essay or to write my ToK essay? Well, on March the 15th, 2023, International Baccalaureate updated their academic integrity policy, and in one of the appendix you'll find that they say that you can use AI such as ChatGPT, but you have to cite it like you would cite any other source that you use. So, like, you know, if you use Wikipedia, you have to, if you quote it, you have to put in-text citations, and you have to refer to it in the, you have to put it in the bibliography or the content used section. So if you use AI, it's not your own work. You just have to cite it like any other secondary source that you would use. However, the appendix also goes on to say that students should be encouraged to ask AI research questions. That's the exact wording. Students should be encouraged to use AI for research questions. And we have 25 research questions written specifically for each ToK essay available from toktoday.com. I'll link in the video description. So, now we've established that you are allowed to use AI to help you to write your ToK essay, let's move on to look at how do you use AI to help you with your ToK essay. Now, first thing here is that you're not allowed to just pump the essay title straight into ChatGPT's prompt box. And I would discourage you from doing that anyway, because what will happen is that ChatGPT will give you quite a vague and general response. It's not going to give you the depth and specific relevant content that you need for your ToK essay. So don't just throw the essay title into the chat box and see what comes back. It's not going to be particularly useful. To understand how to use ChatGPT, you have to understand what it is and other AI, similar AI programs. They're what are called large language models of artificial intelligence, LLM. And what that basically means is that they recognize the frequency of words occurring together. So their algorithms sort of scour the internet and they look at which words are most likely to come next whenever a certain sequence of words is used. So, you know, it will know that if it sees the words area of knowledge human, then the next most likely word is sciences. And if it sees the word scientific methodology is, the next likely word will be objective or deductive, for example. What this means is that ChatGPT doesn't actually know anything. All it is frequencies of words that are likely to occur together. You know more ToK than ChatGPT does, and that's important to hold that in mind all of the time. So the question or the prompt that you ask ChatGPT or any other artificial intelligence is super important, okay? The actual prompt that you ask, the prompt you give it, has to be specific enough to give you specific and relevant content that's going to help you with your essay. So you need to sort of design those prompts very carefully. You need to be very targeted in what you're asking it. So you're going to be asking it questions about sections of your essay, about paragraphs of your essay, rather than about the whole thing. And the next thing to remember is that it remembers earlier parts of the conversation. It's sort of like you're having a conversation with it. And that's what makes it different from current sort of Google searches. With ChatGPT or other AI, you are having a conversation with it, so you can ask it follow-up questions to the prompt. I have some examples of this coming up. Now, normal searches like Google search are updating to incorporate AI into them. I think Bing has already done that. So when you watch this video, if it's some point in the future, that may have already happened and my advice might be out of date. So you need to work out your knowledge arguments beforehand, and you have to sort of ask questions about your knowledge argument. And then you can take the content that AI gives you and then develop that in your own way using other sources, and then developing the argument to fit it into your essay. So it's sort of like having a ToK teacher with you at home. Well, maybe not such an intelligent and amazing ToK teacher, but it's sort of like having a ToK teacher. Let's look at essay number 5 from May 2023. Essay 5 in May 2023 was, are visual representations helpful in the communication of knowledge in the human sciences and maths? Rather than directly ask that whole question, we break it down and we use the responses of the AI to build our argument. So let's start with the question, give me an example from economics when using a visual representation is better than a written description. Okay, so this is like a sub-question of the whole prescribed title. And here we see the response from ChatGPT, and it's given me the example of where visual representation is better than description is in supply and demand curves. And it has explained the advantage that, and I quote, a written description of the relationship between supply and demand can be difficult to understand. This involves multiple variables and complex interactions over visual representations, such as a graph, and we can make the relationship much clearer and easier to comprehend. Now, in this passage, we have the core of an evaluation point that we can use to argue that visual representations in economics, which is a human science, are better than written descriptions. We would now need to develop this advantage of visual representations using ToK concepts or terminology. But we have the beginnings there. Now, we come to the advantage of AI, such as ChatGPT, over old search engines. Remember I said that AI remembers what you've already asked it. It's like you're having a conversation with it. So we can now ask it, well, what are the disadvantages of explaining the law of supply and demand using a graph rather than using a written description? So we're asking it here for a further evaluation point. And here we see the response from ChatGPT. It has given us 4 disadvantages of using visual representations, and each point could be developed into an evaluation point to be used either in AOK Human Sciences or AOK Mathematics for this essay. Now, I think that points 2 to 4 are very rich themes for ToK and are substantial enough to develop as the whole evaluatory side of this essay, to develop as all of the evaluation points for this essay. You would just need to use the top concepts and the real-life situation. But to be honest, you could get ChatGPT to write the disadvantages of explaining the law of supply and demand using a graph rather than using a written description. Notice that rather than just put the whole essay question into ChatGPT's search bar, I started by asking it a specific question, and then the next specific question that I asked it built on the response from the first question. This is what I call the 2-part rule for AI for getting specific content from it. And that's to, first of all, ask it a very specific question and then ask it follow-up questions relating to that specific question. This will help it to narrow down to the content that you're looking for. As I mentioned earlier, we have prompts that you can use for each of the ToK essays in this season. I've been through and I've taken knowledge arguments from those essays. I've developed prompts for each of those knowledge arguments, and then I've put them into ChatGPT to see what sort of responses it generates to ensure that it will give you specific and relevant content for your essay. And they're available from toktoday.com. And now we come to the third sort of issue, which is, should you use ChatGPT or other AI to write your ToK essay? Like, is it a good idea? And the answer's not straightforward, okay? I would say that there are two big interrelated issues plus one other very important issue. And the two big interrelated issues are that the content that it gives you may not be particularly relevant to your essay. And then related to that is that it might actually be more work to use ChatGPT than it is just to write the essay yourself using normal secondary sources, essay notes, textbooks, JSTOR, things like that. Let's look at those first two issues and then we'll come to the third bigger question later on. So, first of all, the content that it gives you may not be particularly relevant or accurate. It can generate lots and lots of content, and this then gives you the sort of third task, which is you have to sift through that content and work out, well, what's useful for my essay and what isn't useful for my essay, and how do I fit that into what I was thinking of writing. And if you were just writing for yourself from the beginning, you wouldn't necessarily have to do that because you'd work it all out in your head first, using different sources to draw it all together, write it in rough, show it to your teacher helps you, give it back, so on and so on. And this sort of third thing of well, ChatGPT's given me all this other stuff, can introduce more work. And I've certainly noticed this when I've been using ChatGPT, that actually it might just be faster for me just to go and write it myself. It usually is. And then secondly, sort of linked to that, is that the content it gives you may not be accurate. It may not be correct. It often gets things wrong. I recently asked it to explain a very specific argument arising from the empiricism versus rationalism debate of a particular philosopher, and it gave me a response, but the response it gave me was completely 100% wrong. It had reversed the argument entirely. And I checked this with sources. I even checked it with the original source, and yeah, ChatGPT had got it 100% wrong. And I've had this at other times as well, where it's made things up, all right? So I've asked it to tell me about some research that connects these two things together, whatever they are, and it's given me some research. And then when I've asked it, well, can you actually give me a citation for that research? I want to know who did it and when did they do it and where is it published? Then it's come back and it said, oh, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. And then it's given me some other sort of research which didn't really answer my original prompt. Now, I'm not sure why it makes things up, but this has been noticed by quite a lot of people who've done some research in it. It can't be entirely trusted, and it has lots of biases built into it as well. So this means that you have to check everything that ChatGPT gives you. You need to check it really carefully against certainly other secondary sources, and if possible against primary sources. So you're going to be in JSTOR or whatever academic online database your school uses, and you're going to be looking up primary research just to ensure that what ChatGPT is giving you is factual or true and not made up. And that's just adding more and more work into writing the essay. So I sort of tend to think that ChatGPT can be a useful starting point to give you some ideas, but then it's probably faster just to leave it alone and to use traditional methods of writing the essay, following those ideas up using secondary sources like your school textbook or essay notes or your online academic database such as JSTOR. Added to that extra work is that you have to cite all of the content that you get from ChatGPT. So if you're using an argument from ChatGPT, you need to cite it as a secondary source. If you're quoting directly from ChatGPT, then you need to use in-text citation as you usually would. Just like if you were using Wikipedia in your ToK essay or any other essay. And this obviously can be more work. So then you think, well, I don't want to be citing ChatGPT. So then you're having to develop it into your own words, yeah? And you're going through that sort of development phase of writing, drafting, and redrafting. And I wonder whether that's more work than just starting with your own words to begin with. A word of caution here, don't not cite it. The plagiarism checkers will pick it up, okay? And your DP coordinator will run a plagiarism check on your essay. And then IB have far more sophisticated plagiarism checkers than the ones that we operate or use at school. And the AI plagiarism checkers are getting far, far better. I've been using one called Chat0. I've been testing that out, and it has been accurate 100% of the time. So 100% of the time, when I put in AI created content, it has identified it as being AI created content. And when I put in my own written content, it's identified that as being non-AI. I'm not artificially intelligent. Okay, and that brings us to the third and sort of final big factor on whether you should use ChatGPT to write your ToK essay, and that's about your own development, your own intellectual development. Do you really want to rely upon artificial intelligence to write something for you? You've been attending all of those ToK classes. You've been developing your own critical thinking skills. You've been developing your ToK knowledge. As I say, you know more ToK than AI does. And in writing this ToK essay, you're going to be developing a really good, strong skill in writing a succinct academic essay, taking a critical set of perspectives on a prompt. And that skill is going to serve you well for the rest of your life in whatever job that you do, and particularly at university. So do you want to rely upon AI to do that at the moment, or do you want to practice that skill and develop that skill so that you're really, really good at it? And you know, it's a sort of authenticity and truth to self thing. Develop real intelligence, not artificial intelligence. So at the end of this video, in summary, I would say that AI like ChatGPT can be great for giving us essay ideas. It can be great for pointing us in the right direction, but then we should start to rely more upon the traditional methods of writing essays, like using our own brains and drawing from secondary sources like JSTOR, those sort of academic sources like that, and not relying upon it too much. That will make your job easier, and it will reduce the amount of work that you do. Over-reliance on AI could increase the amount of work that you do. You're not really sure whether it's accurate or good or not, and you'll be risking your ToK grade and your diploma on that basis. If you want some specific prompts for AI to give you some of that relevant information to then follow up on in the traditional way, we have 25 AI prompts available for every ToK essay this season, available on toktoday.com. And those of you who are going to take a more conventional approach, which is the approach that I basically recommend, we have essay notes, essay guidance notes available for every single ToK essay this season, and those essay guidance notes are all sort of 5,000 to 10,000 words long. They're really detailed. They've got ideas about knowledge arguments and evaluation points and secondary sources. So they can really help you to start to build your essay around those notes. If you found that useful, or you enjoyed it, or you just want to be nice, then hit like, and I'd really love it if you hit subscribe. Stay in this tribe, hit subscribe. Have a great day, guys. I hope to see you on the next video. Stay ToKtastic. Bye.